One sprout, many buds. Nothing, not even the sun itself, could match the bright smile Sunny Starscout wore upon this clear day. From her vantage point on the grassy hill, she glanced around the main thoroughfare of Maritime Bay. Everywhere she looked, the Earth Pony's deepest desire played out before her very eyes. Just days prior, only Earth Ponies would have been seen wandering the streets, but now dozens of unicorns visiting from Bridalwood and just as many Pegasi visiting from Zephyr Heights were among the crowds. The ponies, all of them, chatted and laughed together. Young foals ran and played together, unicorns levitated things around, and Pegasi soared through the air, both to the awe of all those who once believed such things were to be feared. "Hey, Sonny," said Hitch, as he and Izzy spread out the red and white checkered blanket. "You haven't forgotten that we're here for a nice picnic, right?" Zip chuckled while pulling plates and cups out of the basket and arranging them in a circle on the blanket.
"I think she's lost in her excitement again." "This has been my lifelong dream!"
exclaimed Sunny, maintaining her smile.
"Even though it's only been a few days, it already feels like so long ago that we were all afraid of each other and living in entirely different worlds. I could just jump for joy!"
She cheered loudly and bounced up and down several times.
"Let me join you!"
cried Izzy, who also hopped in place.
"Yay! This makes it once a day that we get all excited like this."
Gently flapping her wings, Pip hovered in the air. She set various bottles of soda and juice on the blanket, followed by boxes of pizza, sandwiches, and donuts.
"Get used to it. It's a dream no longer. It's reality now."
"And it never would have happened if you hadn't kept faith in the ancient stories that were really true," stated Hitch with a smile. "I feel pretty bad, even though we were friends even back then, and I never listened to you or your dad. Sorry again for that, Sonny."
"Don't feel too bad, Sheriff,"
said Zip.
"A few days ago, we all thought those were just old ponytails."
"Zip, how many times do I have to tell you can just call me Hitch? We're friends now, after all."
"Exactly. Nicknames are one of the best things about having friends, and Sheriff suits you." "I agree,"
quipped Izzy.
"It suits you perfectly, mister, but I'm the sheriff."
Pip pulled out her mobile phone and pressed a few buttons on the screen, while facing the camera to herself. When she spoke, it was with a happy announcer's tone.
"What is up, every pony out there in Ponylands? This is Pip, streaming live from another beautiful day with my new friends here in Maritime Bay. Today, we're having a picnic."
She then turned the camera so that the others were visible on screen instead.
"Every pony say hi to all of our wonderful viewers!"
Sunny, Hitch, Zip, and Izzy all huddled together, beamed, and waved to the camera.
"Hi there, friends!"
They cried in unison. The bottom right corner of the screen of Pip's phone immediately lit up with an endless chain of smiley faces, hearts, and waving emojis.
"So, Sunny," continued
Pip, as she zoomed the camera in on her,
"I don't see any more of those, not so unicorn and Pegasi-friendly posters down there. So score another one for friendship."
Sunny's eyes widened, and her ears flattened as she rubbed the back of her head while looking away from the camera.
"Oh gosh, remember I asked you not to mention those again, especially on your stream?"
She returned her gaze to the camera, and with a nervous chuckle, she smiled sheepishly.
"Sorry again, every pony, but the sooner we all forget about those, the better."
Izzy suddenly pushed herself into the camera's view, eliciting a mild startled noise from Sunny, and forcing Pip to zoom out a bit.
"You heard it straight from the pony's mouth, folks! Forget about those nasty old things!" "I couldn't agree more!"
Pip flipped the camera so that she was on the screen again.
"And that's really all we have for now. You all have a good one, and I hope that you make a new friend today. Live from Maritime Bay, Pip Pip it away!"
She pressed the end stream button on her app and the screen went back to the main page, and then she put the phone away. "So," said Hitch, once again watching the crowds in the streets. "It seems like all we have left to do is finish fixing the damage Sprout had caused to the lighthouse. But with so many ponies chipping in from the last few days, they said it would all be done this afternoon before we got back from our picnic." Sunny frowned and looked down.
"That whole thing that evening is still a little surprising to me,"
stated Pip as she set herself down on the ground and folded her wings against her sides.
"It's a good thing that he didn't cause any more damage than he did."
"It's a miracle that he didn't ruin all the work that we put into reuniting ponykind," replied Hitch. "I didn't think he was capable of such madness." Sunny looked back up while maintaining a frown.
"Even when we were just fools, he never passed up a chance to tease me for believing in the ancient stories."
Zip furrowed her brow at Sunny.
"How did you even become friends with him if he was like that?" "Because she's Sunny's Star Scout!"
exclaimed Izzy.
"Even back then, she saw every pony's not a stranger but as a friend that she simply hadn't met yet. Am I right?"
Sunny smiled a little at Izzy's comments and question.
"I'm sure that's exactly how my dad would describe it. I think it was probably more that he and Sprout's mom knew each other, so Sprout and I would just hang out by default. Despite the teasing, I still did enjoy hanging out with him a lot."
"I suppose I was just as bad as he was with the teasing?" asked Hitch, giving Sunny a worried look. Sunny's smile got warmer, and she shook her head.
"No, you weren't."
The stallion returned the smile and wiped his brow with one of the napkins that they'd brought for the picnic. Whew, that's a relief.
Do you still consider Sprout a personal friend? After he nearly started a war with unicorns and Pegasi both, then almost destroyed your house trying to stop you from bringing magic back?
Sunny's eyes widened again. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came up before closing it. This happened several times, making her look like a fish trying to talk. Izzy cleared her throat and chuckled nervously.
Maybe we shouldn't talk about this right now. I'm sure we're all hungry as a horse by now.
She lifted one of the pizza boxes with her left hoof, and a box of sandwiches with her right.
Every pony make like a shovel and dig in.
While the others set about gathering up their items and beginning to eat, Sunny just stared at her empty plate and cup. They all replayed over and over in her mind, the events that led up to the present, all starting with the day Izzy first arrived in Maritime Bay, and the mass panic it caused. For Sunny, time seemed to slow to a crawl, as the memories consumed her.
Yo, Sunny!
Cried Izzy after several minutes.
Grub's gonna get cold.
Hitch let out a quiet sigh. I knew I shouldn't have mentioned Sprout. Sorry.
The thing is...
Sunny glanced up and gazed at the others.
I do still want to call him a friend.
The others gazed back in silence.
In all of the ancient stories about Princess Twilight and her friends,
Continued Sunny.
no matter how bad things got, they always try to give every pony a chance to come back around. It's thanks to us that magic and friendship has finally returned. So how can I even consider not trying to give Sprout a second chance? And I don't mean that as simply something I have to do to fulfill some duty, I really mean it. No matter how much he would tease me, he was still my friend. One of the only friends that I had, and I would like to have him back.
You know, said Hitch, putting his half-eaten slice of pizza down on his plate. I do too, actually. Zip smiled gently.
I know the Ancient Guardians would be very happy to hear you both say that. And you're right. I think me, Zip, and Izzy should try to be friends with him too.
Stated Pip.
If he's gonna be your friend, he should be ours as well. Yeah!
Cried Izzy.
As they say, the more the merrier. And if he wants nothing to do with us, well, at least we tried.
The ponies all smiled and nodded.
Just one teensy-weensy little bit of advice first.
Izzy then gave Sunny a serious stare that none of the group had seen from the unicorn before. Except Sunny herself the day the two met and Izzy about her staring contests. And she got right up in the earth pony's face so close their snouts were barely an inch apart. Sunny's eyes widened and she stared straight back at Izzy, unblinking.
Yes?
She stammered. Izzy's tone was as serious as her demeanor.
Whatever you do, do not, I repeat, do not rub it in that you were right and he was wrong. That's the fastest way to make an enemy, not a friend.
Sunny's eyes widened even more. She leaned back a couple of inches, sweat running down her brow, and she nodded firmly several times.
Of course, I knew that. Perfect.
Izzy suddenly pulled back, beaming brightly.
Now how about we finish our picnic? All this yummy pizza and lemonade the restaurant Sprout is doing part of his community service at isn't gonna eat itself. And neither will these delicious sandwiches and donuts that Zip and Pip's mom had the castle chefs make for us.
Sunny smiled and finally grabbed herself some lunch. Settling down to enjoy the meal, the bright clear warm day in the company of her friends, she mulled over the task that was to come next. After returning the picnic gear to her house, with Hitch, Izzy, Zip, and Pip at her side, Sunny strode gently down the street, weaving through the groups of ponies towards the pizza hoof at the end of the block. The group was silent as they went, and only very briefly returned the greetings they got from others. Sunny's heart beat a little faster with each step as they got closer and closer. By the time she was staring into the glass door of the restaurant, her breathing was so heavy it felt like she was on the verge of passing out. She spotted Sprout himself in the middle of a bussing table, wearing the saddlebags containing his tablecloth and spray bottle, and putting the dirty dishes from the previous customers into a bin on top of a cart. Suddenly, Sunny's legs felt weightier than steel and her voice got caught in her throat. You ready? Asked Hitch, giving Sunny a soft glance.
You look more nervous than a pony who dares to challenge Alpha Biddle to a game.
Stated Izzy.
Namely me. Seriously, I don't have a good track record there.
Zip smiled.
It's good she's nervous. Shows that she really does care.
Every pony gently placed their hoof on either of Sunny's shoulders.
You can do this,
said Pip.
We're all right here with you.
The encouraging words from her friend snapped Sunny out of her mental paralysis, and she swallowed hard.
Right,
she said with a strong nod.
I just have to keep my cool and be friendly. And another reminder to myself, do not rub it in.
With that, she gently pushed the door open, causing the little bell to ring, and she stepped inside. Sprout glanced up from the table and his mouth open to greet the new guests, but stopped upon seeing who it was. It took a couple of moments for him to get it out.
Welcome to Pizza Hoof,
he said half-heartedly, clearly not happy to see them, but trying to keep at least somewhat of a professional demeanor.
Welcome again, I mean. Did you enjoy the pizza and lemonade? Sure did,
exclaimed Izzy, as she rubbed her tummy.
I assume you're back for more? Well, I'm not on the register right now, as you can see, but Swifty over there can help you.
Sprout pointed to a green Earth Pony stallion wearing a black hat with a restaurant's logo on it, standing behind the counter.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get these tables cleaned.
He went back to wiping the table and chairs down, avoiding eye contact with any of the group. Sunny watched him work for a brief moment, then took a couple of steps forward. When she spoke, it was with the kindest and gentlest tone that she could muster.
It was very good. As good as ever. But actually, that's not why we're here. I wanted to ask you something, and I'll get right to the point. I know we've had our differences, and because of me, your whole world turned upside down, literally overnight.
She paused, hoping with all of her being that didn't come out like she was gloating. Sprout kept on working like he either hadn't heard her or was just flat out ignoring her. All the while, he continued to avoid eye contact.
What I'm trying to say,
continued Sunny,
is that we've been friends since we were little. I know we drifted apart as we grew up because of our differences, but I never stopped seeing you as a friend. And despite certain recent events, I still want you as a friend.
Sprout still didn't reply, and just moved on to the next table. Sunny frowned slightly. Zip leaned close in to Pip.
Is he even listening?
She whispered.
I am not getting good vibes,
replied Pip.
Sprout,
said Izzy. Hitch stepped forward and put a foreleg in front of Sprout. The red Earth Pony stopped working, but kept his gaze down. Sprout, said Hitch. His tone was a bit more firm than Sunny's, but still friendly. What I'm about to say, I'm saying as a friend. I totally understand that you're upset, but don't forget we've been friends since we were little, just like with Sunny. No pony here is gonna judge you. I still want to be your friends, just as much as Sunny does. Not only that, but Izzy, Zip, and Pip want to be your friends too. Right, every pony?
Indubitably!
Cried Izzy. Said Zip with a grin, as she gave Sprout a playful bop on his shoulder.
Us Pegasi really aren't so bad when you get to know us.
Suddenly her eyes widened, as she waved her forelegs in front of herself.
Wait, I didn't mean that in a boastful way, honest.
Pip cleared her throat.
What my sister means is exactly what Hitch said. No judging here.
Finally, Sunny walked up to Sprout and gently put her hoof under his chin, lifting up his gaze so they were staring straight at each other.
How about this? If you want to be friends again, come to the lighthouse later tonight and all of us will have a little party with Izzy's tea set that she brought in from her place in Bridlewood.
Zip glanced over at Sunny.
That really isn't much time to allow him to think about it. I guess you're right. Forget about trying to do it tonight. Take as long as you need. If you want to be friends again, just come by the lighthouse anytime. Now then, we'll get out of your mane and let you work. Hope to see you soon.
The ponies turned and made their way to the door, but before they reached it, Izzy stopped, turned back around, and bounded up to the counter. Every pony else, including Sprout, stared at her with eyes wide. The unicorn looked back at them all with a silly smile.
Maybe just one more thing. I'm feeling like a nice calzone.
Sunny, Hitch, Zip, and Pip chuckled, as they all sat down on a bench near the door to wait. Soon, Izzy had the box containing her fresh calzone held aloft in her magic and floating alongside her. She then happily trotted over to Sprout. Yes? He asked.
Just an FYI.
She leaned in and put her hoof beside her muzzle, like she was about to whisper something. Except when she did, it was loud enough for every pony in the room to hear.
You're a little old to still be calling your mother mommy. It's a little weird,
she stated, holding the word weird for several seconds. Sprout's mouth hung open, and so did every other ponies in the dining room, as Izzy trotted back to her friends while humming to herself.
Izzy Moonbow!
Said Pip indignantly.
Could you possibly have waited to say that in a more private setting? Yeah, probably.
She replied, wearing a bright smile.
And what in the world were you thinking anyway? We're trying to befriend Sprout, not humiliate him any more than we already have.
As the ponies left the restaurant and began to make their way across town to the now repaired lighthouse, all of Sunny's thoughts zeroed in on what had just transpired between them and Sprout. For now, she could only hope. Later that evening, inside the fully repaired lighthouse, Sunny sat in her room, staring at the journal with a six-pronged star on its cover, and at the little figurines of Princess Twilight, Applejack, Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, Pinkie Pie, and Rarity, the ancient guardians of harmony who inspired her. Warm orange sunlight poured into the space from the window that overlooked both the city and the bay.
I know Sprout did some pretty awful things in the last few days leading up to the reunification,
she muttered, keeping her gaze fixed on the figurines.
But I did the right thing, didn't I? I'm sure I did. I know I did. You ponies would have done the same. I really don't want to lose him as a friend for good. I hope he was listening. It didn't seem like he was.
She frowned, and her ears flattened, but then she placed the six figurines in a little bin and carried them out of the room. Down in the living room, Hitch, Izzy, Zip, and Pip were seated in a circle around Izzy's special tea set. Whatever they had been talking about ceased as soon as Sunny entered the room, and they all gazed at her. Is whatever in that bin what I think they are? Asked Hitch. Sunny smiled and nodded.
You know me too well,
She walked up to the tea set and sat down at the empty place.
This reminds me of the night before we made it to Bridalwood,
said Zip.
when the 5 of us sat around a campfire together and we really bonded for the first time as friends. I'll never forget that.
One by one, Sunny pulled the little figurines of the ancient guardians from the bin and placed them on the table.
I just thought that they might like to join us.
The others chuckled and gazed at the figurines for a moment before pouring themselves the tea that Izzy had prepared. And then suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Everyone was startled and stared in that direction.
You don't suppose that's...
said Pip. Sunny immediately stood up and bolted straight for the door, yanking it open as soon as she could reach it with her hoof, and her eyes widened. There he was, only sans the pizza hoof hat.
It is!
Cried Izzy, rushing over to Sunny's side.
Hi, Sprout!
Hi, he said meekly after several moments, and Hitch smiled. Well, hello there, old buddy.
So you decided to join us after all,
stated Pip with a grin.
Deep down, I knew you would.
Sprout didn't say anything.
Does this mean you actually...
inquired Sunny after several quiet moments. Again, Sprout didn't speak, but he did gaze straight into Sunny's eyes and nodded a single time. It was like some unseen force had lifted a tremendous weight off of Sunny's shoulders. She beamed, her eyes beginning to water, and she threw her forelegs around Sprout as if she would never let go. Sprout grunted slightly from the sudden embrace, but didn't recoil. Welcome back, said Hitch.
Oh, this so calls for a live stream!
Pip whipped out her phone.
But I think I'll wait until Sunny remembers that she still needs to breathe.
Sunny had been kind of holding her breath up to that point, as all of her energy was being spent lost in the moment. She broke the embrace after a little while, and wiped her eyes.
I was pretty worried for a while.
I don't not want you as a friend, said Sprout as he rubbed the back of his head. If you're really, truly willing to give me a second chance.
Good enough for us,
cried Izzy.
Now get in here and join the party!
Then her cheery demeanor lessened a bit and her ears drooped.
Also, Pip was right. I totally should not have said what I did to you, especially in the public. Forgive me?
Don't worry about it, replied Sprout calmly.
Pretty sure you technically weren't wrong.
Sunny and Izzy returned to their spots at the tea set, and with very bright smiles they rearranged the cups to make room for 6. Hitch, Zip, and Pip also moved slightly to make the same accommodation. Seeing the old figurines they used to play with when he, Sunny, and Hitch were little, Sprout let out a nervous chuckle and sat down at the newly made place. That was really damn sweet, though never would I think that he would ever be in a Pizza Hut of all places. But that's good creativity. Now let's get on to our very friendly donators. Top donators Peter Coulthard, J10Man, Darkside, Gauntlet, and Only One Thing. Zar630, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin Roland, Crazy Killer 557, Stu Hex, Will, Omicron Lyrae, Dospo, Delta Omega, Jack Cadge, Rinslife 9852, Madman Stan, Leslie Prickett, Drake Lovedragon, Hunter Norman, Stephen Bingham, Line Guy 12, Sorcerer Constantine, Hudzaza, and many more awesome people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.